On your Wednesday episode of Locked On Raptors, we break down a Raptors-Bucks game that was a basketball game to most people's eyes, but to a mathematician, it was a horror movie.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Wednesday, November the 13th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. Been covering the Toronto Raptors now 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky now. Just search me up at Woodley Sean. You'll find me there. I got a little Raptors starter pack going for people making the migration over there as well. Today's guest hasn't done it yet. I guess he just loves Elon Musk. So we are off and running. Let's go. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors. You can go and check out the Discord. It's free in the description of the podcast. Come hang out. It's a lovely place full of sickos just like you who love the podcast and love to not get work done during the day. And of course, you can go to the link in the description and subscribe for free to the daily Locked On Raptors newsletter. A great place to come hang out and read my stuff every single day. I guess you don't really hang out there. You're just kind of watching me pontificate about the Raptors, but that's fun too. It's free. You get Katie Heindel, you get Josh Lloyd's fantasy tips. It's a great thing. Go subscribe to the newsletter. Much appreciated. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we will get started by a man who I've already insulted on today's show. Off to a rollicking start. He does not like that guy, I think. It's Vivek Jacob, Big V from Raptors in 7 and Sportsnet. How are you, my friend? I'm sorry.
Firing shots while you have me on mute. Talk about a hold me back move.
It's my podcast, man. I'm a tyrant. You should know this by now. You've been doing it for 8 years.
That's true. It's true. But no, I would love to have an invite and join the Blue Sky movement.
Anyone can join now, man. It's not invite only. It's been anyone can join for like a year, buddy. Catch the wave.
I don't know, man. I it's like I just don't pay attention to social media at all anymore.
I mean, that's the actual smart thing to do. You're a genius. All right,
but yeah,
man, let's get to it. Yeah, go ahead.
NBA Cup opener.
Yes.
I think we will get into some specific game takeaways, but I was kind of looking forward to this as, we have this tank motive going, and the Raptors are obviously now a league worst 2-10. But for me, I kind of viewed the NBA Cup as something that could potentially be outside of that top 4 pick pursuit and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe this is an opportunity to get a taste of or as close to a taste of what the playoffs are like, and let's try and bring that playoff intensity and just go for it and see, let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, this should be a platform upon which teams are trying to get some development for the guys who aren't going to get real high leverage games later in the season. And maybe you'll say, oh, the NBA Cup's fake. It's not real. It's not really high stakes. Like, the players treat it high stakes. Like, they do. It's like full stop. The teams are treating this like it's not November regular season basketball. And so, yeah, it is a great opportunity to go play some games where the sort of intensity's ratcheted up a little bit. It's not playoff intensity, but it's certainly not Tuesday in November intensity either. And yeah, it's a bummer they don't have their guys to be able to go and do it full force. That's not to say that they can't still. There's three group games left. It's forgiving. It's a 4-game group schedule. The Pistons last night did not exactly bolster their point differential with their 2-point win over Eric Spoelstra, who's cooked. He's not built for the cup as a coach. Calling timeouts he doesn't have. Unbelievable. But yeah, it was a tough start in the cup for sure for your Toronto Raptors. Let's dive in. We are going to get into the injury to Immanuel Quickley, what that means and kind of the big picture, because it sucks. It's a huge bummer. That came out yesterday. We're going to get into the good, the bad, and the of course. But let's start with just the grotesque math of this game, Big V. You want me to drop some numbers on you? It was pretty ugly. The Toronto Raptors, per clean glass, took 46% of their shots at the rim in this game. That's great. That's right where you want to be. That's the Raptors being the rim merchants they've been all season long. They only hit 37% of those shots at the rim on account of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez being a pair of oak trees just swatting everything away and making it really miserable for any Raptor who decided to venture into the paint. Jakob Poeltl got stuffed a few times. Gradey Dick contested a few times. All of it really, RJ Barrett like hitting the bottom of the rim because of reasons and spatial awareness issues and all of that. A really ugly performance from the Raptors, trying to be the team that they are, right? Like this is their identity. This is their personality. They're a team that lives at the rim. They kind of eschew threes, but it came back to bite them in this one because the Bucks, who, by the way, looked terrible. This was not a good basketball game. This was as rock fighty as rock fights get. But with the Raptors sending liberal help towards Giannis Antetokounmpo, with Ochai Agbaji being the main guy guarding him with like a 6-inch disadvantage in size, there were a lot of threes to be had, and the Bucks got them up. They took 56 threes in this game. They only hit 29% of them, but a small percentage of a big number is still pretty big, and that was enough to just tilt the math away from the Raptors in this one, in a game where, I thought there was some good stuff defensively overall. I thought they handled Giannis about as well as you could have expected with the guys they had on hand. But like this team just doesn't have enough ideas on offense right now outside of Gradey go do stuff to really make up when the math is this disadvantageous and they can't actually do the thing where they score at the rim with great proficiency. What were your impressions of the way the offense ran in this game and sort of the slow decay of the offensive effectiveness over the last few games?
Yeah, I mean, some of that slow decay is obviously fatigue setting in. You've got your best players out. You've got guys who are trying to step into roles that are probably above themselves. I mean, we saw RJ Barrett do it exceedingly well out the gate, and really put on a show with his playmaking, with his scoring. And now you're seeing the scouting reports adjust, and you're seeing teams take away the drive. They're making him go right more often. They're crowding the paint to make sure that he doesn't have that head of steam. And so I think he's gonna have to learn from that. And again, RJ, this is gonna be, I think, a really interesting season for him in terms of how we evaluate him. And he's got to show again whether or not those about 30 games last season with the Raptors, that efficiency that he showed there was kind of a fluke, or whether, that's the player he is. And so I think now is when we really get to see that test. Gradey Dick, I thought that second quarter where he was able to it was the second quarter alone that he was able to get to the line 11 times out of the 16 free throws that he had. And that was in a moment where it looked like things could have potentially got out of hand. And as you mentioned, it was kind of like, hey, Gradey, go do stuff. And he went and did stuff, which is another amazing thing to see from him. And I think that's where it maybe gets a little tough when you look at the fact that the Raptors got to the line as much as they did in the second quarter. You're setting yourself up to play half-court defense.
Yep.
and you still can't get stops. You still have no real level of resistance. And I think what we've seen over the last two games is there's no one on the roster who's well equipped to defend the LeBrons and Giannis's of the world.
Yeah. It's tough stuff. It's really hard when you don't have someone taller than 6'5" to throw at Giannis. It's tough stuff, man. I think, look, RJ in particular, it's been really rough. Like the efficiency has totally cratered. I think last night was his single worst game as a Toronto Raptor. I don't even know if it's close. It was a mess. Only the 7 points. He goes 3 of 14, forcing a lot. The turnovers, like some really whack turnovers with like kind of unforced, just like needless passes into traffic. Really tough stuff from him. I don't think this is who RJ is. Like, I think the last 5 games have been extremely rough. I also think he's been occupying a role that's been more adjacent to the role he played with the Knicks, where he struggled. We know that's a role he struggles in. We got 3-4 years of tape of that being true. I think the role he figures to occupy once this team is healthy, once again, where he's flying around off the ball, he's not taking pull-up threes. Big V, he took 0.1 pull-up threes per game as a Raptor last year. I think that equates to 1 or 2 total pull-up threes over the course of his 30-something games last year with the Raptors. He's already averaging 1.8 pull-up attempts per game so far this year in 9 games. Like, he's blowing that out of the water. He's shooting 19% on those. He's just not a good pull-up three-point shooter, and that is tanking the efficiency. The catch and shoots are fine. You want to see them pop up a little bit. He's at 35% on 4.5 attempts a game. That's not terrible, but the pull-ups are really bringing things down. And yeah, he's forced to take them because the drives are walled off, the spaces are confined, and he's not equipped to be a number one option in an offense when teams are scheming for him as that number one. And so, yeah, I think he, more than anybody, needs this team to get back to full health for sure. When are we going to see that? We don't know. And that's where we're going to pick things up coming up in just a second. We're going to talk about Immanuel Quickley going out again with a freaking baseball injury. Cool. They're getting real creative with this injury report, man. We'll talk about Quickley being out, what it means for the team going forward here. And are we ever actually going to see the 3 guys who this season was supposed to be about play together? We'll get to that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. It's that simple. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And again, get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. It's not just NFL stuff, of course. Maybe you want to go throw some money down on some NBA Cup action. The Raptors take on the Pistons on Friday. Maybe you feel good about the Raptors. Maybe you don't. You can take them against the spread. You can take the Pistons to win outright. All of that is available for you to peruse over at FanDuel's very easy-to-use app. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Back at it here with Vivek Jacob, Big V from Raptors in 7, his lovely Substack newsletter, and of course the wonderful Sportsnet stuff he does covering the NBA as well. Immanuel Quickley. This is the big story of the day outside of the NBA Cup and the Raptors losing and all of that. He's out. He'll be evaluated in a week with a partially torn UCL. Yes, the Tommy John surgery injury. Not great, Bob. Look, it's not as serious for a point guard as it is for a pitcher. He's not going to be out for a year or anything like that. But certainly not what you want to see for a guy who's just had this hell start to the season. The thumb thing keeps him out in training camp. He plays 1 preseason game, 14 minutes of a regular season game, falls on his ass real hard, misses 8 games, has 2 games, 1 really good, 1 not so good. And then he's out again. It's just been stops and starts for Quickley in what was supposed to be a real coming out party for him as the lead guard, freshly paid, all of that. We don't know when we're going to see him again. The sort of range on these UCL injuries. Paul George is probably the closest example. Samson Folk kind of wrote about this in his write-up on the injury yesterday. He missed 5 games last year with a UCL thing and then proceeded to have surgery after that and missed 3 months. Who knows, right? Maybe we don't know the severity of the tear and all of that, but just how damaging is it that we just haven't seen the 3 guys this whole thing is supposed to be built around together yet, Big V? Are you getting worried about the information gathering we're just not going to be able to do? It felt like a pretty important part of this year is evaluating how these 3 guys, Barrett, Quickley, Barnes, fit with one another in a normal team context. We haven't gotten to see it yet. All 4 of those 3 guys, plus Jakob Poeltl, have not played a game together since March the 1st. And all told, we have 22 games and 439 minutes total of the BBQ trio playing together. That's just not enough to make any kind of decisions about the future on. How worried are you right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super worried right now, but it is a concern. I think, I would include Gradey Dick in that mix as well. And I think when you look at, say, for example, the second half of that Lakers game, and you're seeing the ball kind of stick with Immanuel Quickley, you see Gradey Dick look a bit disconnected from the offense and unable to figure out where he fits in, Quickley not able to, get guys involved. That's where you want to see those growing pains more often so that they can figure it out. And so the longer that takes, the longer it takes for them to all be on the court together and find that chemistry, that's where it just delays the progress. And so
Mhm.
I think that's where you hope that with Scotty, for example. So when you talk about worried, we already know that Scotty's pretty much out until the end of the month,
Yeah.
at
His
least.
eye looks horrible still on television, so that's my gauge of the Scotty Barnes watch. Still
Yeah.
red. The full red alert in that eye for him. It sucks. A bummer.
Yeah. So I if there's a way that we see, all four of those guys playing together, all and you include Yak in that, if we see that starting five in December, then it's like, okay, you've got a good amount of time to go.
Mhm.
But if it drags into Jan or the All-Star break or whatever it is, that's when, it's like, okay, is this a wasted season?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, we have obviously the amazing individual stories in terms of what Gradey Dick has been able to do and other development stuff like that. But in terms of the big picture of those five coming together, coalescing, understanding each other, that's where it can, if this drags out to Jan Feb, it can be a bit of a lost season.
Yeah, man, and I think it'd be really a bummer if that happened because look, RJ Barrett has 2 years left on his deal after this. There's not any like huge pressure to make any kind of grand sweeping decisions about what the core of this team is going to be, but they get expensive next year with Scotty's deal kicking in. And there is a world in which if things worked really well this year or worked really poorly with a good sample to go on, this summer becomes a time where you make a pivot, where you make some kind of consolidation trade, where you make some kind of sort of fit trade, whether it's Barrett for somebody else who's more defensively inclined or whatever. That is just a difficult set of decisions to make now. The calculus is all wonky because you don't have any sample on these guys playing together. And I guess the thing too here is like, look, we know the deal. This team, they're 2-10. They're on their way to a high draft pick. We know this. How do you balance? Say you don't get these guys back and playing together until mid-December. Again, totally guessing, no idea. It could be a week before Quickly's back, and all of a sudden things are looking all right again. But we don't yet know. Say it's mid-December, early January, before all of these guys are healthy and playing together. How do you balance giving them the runway to go and figure out what they can do? And I think we would mostly agree that when they're playing together, they're capable of winning basketball. BBQ is a plus 2.9 net rating as a three-man lineup for their time with the Raptors in those 439 minutes. Like, they could go win some games. How do you balance that with the tank derby? And will they just be helped by the fact that they're going to bank a hell of a lot of losses right now? And it kind of makes it so if they go on a bit of a run and pick up some W's in January, February, March, it doesn't matter as much? Or are you so hell-bent on trying to get that high pick that, like, what's more important, I guess, is game in the lottery system or getting some actual run, even if it kind of works against the tank off later in the season for you?
Yeah. So right now, again, it's still easier to stomach because that the Raptors are up against such a difficult schedule
Yeah.
that these would be hard games to win even if you were healthy. And I think, yeah, you look at a couple of games and the way they've closed out. Yeah, if you had Scotty, maybe that's the thing that gets you over the hump. If you had Quickly, maybe that's the thing that gets you over the hump. So they've had a couple of games that you can pick at here and there. But I think when you look at the overall schedule, and this is something I've said before, yeah, the first 25 games are extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
The 25 games after that are not much easier.
Yeah.
And so if you get to that second 25 and you're still not healthy, then I think the season is heading one very specific way.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So just to finish up on the thought,
yeah,
uh, I would say January is like the deadline where you need your guys healthy, right? Like
sure.
if you get to the All-Star break and say you're like 15-35, like what's the point? Like
Yeah.
y-
Well, the point is
I
the
would
information gathering. It's like seeing these guys actually get run, man. That's the point.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
fine. I'm saying in terms of like, maybe, some of the decision making we see late in games, some of the timeouts, some of the challenges, maybe that continues,
Mhm.
then maybe you aren't trying to get those things right if you're
Right.
15-35.
Sure.
Uh like I would not want this team to be the Miami team that went, 11-30 in the first half and then 30-11 in the second half.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, they're not going to do that.
yeah.
Even if fully healthy, I would guess. But it'd be fun if look, you say this now. If they start 11-30 and then they get their guys back and they rattle off a 30-11 stretch, I think we'll all be all right with that. Once it actually has happened.
Yeah.
That sounds fun as hell.
But this team, honestly, like, just big picture, this team needs that pick.
Sure.
Like, you mentioned the contract, the way the money is going to work start of next season. You look at the money that RJ will be looking for, and how you're going to have to structure different things. Like, I don't think there's any way you can deny, like, getting another, top 5 pick would be immense.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess for me, say they're like 14-45 at some point, and you come into that last 20 game stretch, but you have your guys healthy. Maybe it's one of the first windows of the year where you've actually had your guys healthy. I maybe just let them rock and see what they can do. Like, they're still gonna have a high pick. Maybe it takes them from second in the odds to fifth. I don't especially care that much about, like, it's a flattened lottery world, man. You can be first in the odds and have a 14% chance at number 1, and you're more likely to fall down to number 5. Like, it's the promise of being one of the bottom teams is not exactly one you can bank on. And so if your only opportunity is to see these guys run together for whatever stretch of season you have, whatever Mickey Mouse schedule you have down the stretch, I think you have to take advantage of that a little bit. Like, just this 2 straight wasted seasons of absolutely not getting any further to answering the questions you have about the core players on your team feels rough, man. Like, yeah, you draft someone high, but, like, what are you adding them to? You don't know that. Like, you have no concept of what the team is or can be. You have some just because you know the individual players and their potential talent and all of that, but, like, you don't know how it all fits together. And yeah, it's going to be a tough balance for them to strike, I think, depending on when these guys get back. Hopefully it's sooner than later. It would be awesome to see these guys in December start to get their feet on the ground and running, and then who knows what happens. I think if they happen to be really good and rattle off a run, you live with that and say, hey, this is good things are happening here. Maybe our talent needs are different than we thought. But yeah, it's getting late quick. They're 2-10, man. Like, they're already banking so many losses that I think they'll be insulated, even if they do get their guys back, from totally sewering their lottery chances. And so maybe it's a best of both worlds situation. I don't know. It sucks right now, though, man. I just want to see these guys play together. We'll come back on the other side, get into the good, the bad, and the from the game against the Bucks. Thing we liked, thing we didn't like, thing that's got us a little bit intrigued. I have some words about AJ Green, who shouldn't be an NBA player. We'll get to that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Mint Mobile. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your own phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Back at it here with Big V, Vivek Jacob from Raptors in 7 and Sportsnet as we get into the good, the bad, and the from the game against the Bucks last night. Look, it's a bad game. Got to fill time somehow. I
was like, wow, it's like a whole segment in itself.
It'll just be filibustering. Yeah. We'll get to a full segment's worth of at some point, I'm sure, this season if things keep tracking this way. But yeah, thing we liked, thing we didn't like, thing we did that's got us a little intrigued from the latest Toronto Raptors basketball game. What you got for your good, Big V?
For my good, I have a great dunk by
Hell
Bruno
yeah, we
Fernando
love donks.
all over Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, whew. First off, I love the energy that Bruno has.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is so infectious, the passion that he plays with.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, obviously he's a flawed player, and
The passion overcomes the general lack of skill. That's great. That's like me in podcasting.
But yeah, I think the way he plays the game, like, he plays with the right intentions.
Mm-hmm.
You can only control what you can control, and
Mm-hmm.
I think he tries to do that. And that dunk, oh my goodness, that was a poster and a half.
That is the best Toronto Raptors in-game dunk since. Is it like
I mean,
Scotty
RJ had a
Barnes
pretty good one
going?
on Aaron Gordon.
Oh, he did. That was a really good one. The Bruno one just felt so mean. I loved
Yeah,
it. I might even go back to, what was it, Scotty's rookie year against the Magic, where he went coast to coast, I think, and dunked on, was it Jalen Suggs maybe? That comes to mind. There have been obviously some good dunks in between here and there, but yeah, that Bruno one, that one's going to live in my brain forever. Little children
and Vince
everywhere
was
with
there to
Bruno
see it.
Fernando posters. Vince was there to see it. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, my good, I mean, Gradey Dick, pretty awesome. We didn't really hit on him that much in the start. 32 points. Yeah, he kind of empties the clip near the end and it goes badly. And what did he go? 3 of 10 from 2-point range in this game. That's the Giannis and Brook effect. It is what it is. He goes 4 of 10 from deep, though, gets to the line 16 times. He's really good. Keeps on setting career highs. If he keeps on doing weekly career highs, we'll get through this dark spell with the Raptors. Super fun. Doing some stuff off the bounce. The crossover game looking pretty good. The pump fake game, just like, teams are terrified of him shooting. It's clear. And the pump fake is a legitimate weapon for him to create space. That's a ton of fun. My bonus good, by the way, Big V, after last night and the Bucks' wretched offensive performance, the Toronto Raptors no longer last in defense. They are 29th. Eat that, Pelicans. Let's go. Let's get to the bad, shall we? What you got for your bad?
Yeah, so I think for me, the bad was just the finishing at the rim. I mean, there was just a lot of attempts that, to me, were frankly a bit puzzling. Like, yeah, there was some really great rim protection from Giannis, from Brook. And looking back, it was like they took turns, because, like, if I'm not mistaken, all 3 of Brook Lopez's blocks came in the first half, and then all 4 of Giannis's blocks came in the second half. And yeah, just looking at it, RJ was 1 for 7 in the paint. Gradey was 1 for 6. Boucher 2 for 5. So if you actually break it down, if you take away Jakob Poeltl and Bruno Fernando, who went a combined, I have this here, 8 for 13 at the rim, it means the rest of the team went 5 for 25 at the basket.
Great. Excellent. Good
like,
stuff.
The thing that is supposed to be the most efficient shot in the game.
Yeah, the thing the entire team is built on. It's like their whole thing.
Yeah.
Rim shots. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was ugly. You mentioned a rock fight. Like, man, that was really, really ugly at the basket. And then, yeah, when they're getting their blocks and they're able to just push it in transition, like Giannis, he gets that head of steam. Can't do nothing about it.
No, you sure can't. There was the one sequence where Jakob Poeltl blocked the hell out of Giannis at the rim. That was super fun. And then he himself got himself blocked to oblivion at the other end. Yeah, this was a bad basketball game, man. Really bad basketball game. My bad is the rookies, Mobo and Shed in particular. Jamison Battle keeps missing dunks. That's an affront to everything I believe. That sucks. Hit your dunks, man, please. But Mobo and Shed, they're looking like second-round pick rookies right now. And I don't know if it's entirely their fault. It's not exactly like they're surrounded by hardened vets to help prop them up. They've kind of just been tossed into the pool without a life jacket and asked to swim. They've had moments where it's looked really good. Last night, not one of those games for either of them. So yeah, that was my bad. It's just the rookies are in a tough spot right now with the lack of support that this team is offering them. They'll be better when other good players are out there to support, but for now it's pretty tough sledding with those second units in particular. It worked when Jamal Shed was playing like he was a 10-year vet. Like, it wasn't going to hold up all season long. Teams get figured out, guys get figured out, all of that. My bonus bad, by the way, AJ Green is an affront to basketball, shouldn't exist in the NBA. What are we doing here? He has taken 52 shots this year. He's played 170 minutes. He has attempted 0 twos. 0 twos. What are we doing? Here's what's wrong with the NBA. If you're mad about the product, it's not the Celtics. It's kind of the Celtics, but it's AJ Green. This guy should not be in the NBA. He's a prank player. It's not actual basketball. How do you not accidentally take a 2? How do you not have a PJ Tucker 2 in there somewhere where your foot's on the line? Awful. Terrible. Shouldn't exist. Get him off the floor. Can't stand AJ Green. All right. What you got for your
So to be honest with you, I was thinking about a Raptors. I don't quite have one.
Okay.
So I am gonna roll with. I was curious to watch the Bucks for a full game. I haven't watched them for a full game, and they do not look right at all.
No, man. I know no Dame, but still, they haven't looked right with him either.
Yeah, and it's definitely worrisome that Dame and Giannis have played well this season, and they just can't get it together. I think they have. If there's a lesson to take for the Raptors from the Bucks, it's that kind of middle ground of the roster and how much that getting depleted can impact you. Obviously, we saw that with the Raptors post-championship and the way, obviously, you lost the superstars, but kind of everything went away quickly, right?
Yeah.
And so in building out, the Sheds and the Mobos, and we'll see where Jacoby Walter ends up, and just building that back up is so important, where I look at, a Bucks team that had Dante DiVincenzo transition, had Grayson Allen, and that's where I think they've kind of lost that funk, right? Like they had guys who could sustain them over the regular season, and now it's just, if the superstars don't do it every night, they're in trouble. And so from a Raptors perspective, you've got these guys, as we mentioned off the top, trying to play out of their skins because the main guys are out. But as we enter, we are now in this second apron era, how you maintain that depth and how you maintain those pieces is going to be crucial.
Yeah, I don't know how they fix it, man. That's a rough supporting cast. AJ Green started for them. He shouldn't be an NBA player. He should be in a gulag somewhere, and yet he's starting NBA games for this team. It's not great. Yeah, tough stuff for the Bucks. Looking forward to Giannis being a Toronto Raptor very soon. My is just an NBA Cup date. Yeah, there's not really any trends burgeoning with the team that I'm interested in because they don't have any other players right now. But the NBA Cup started last night. The Pistons win by 2 points in that ridiculous OT game with the Heat, where Eric Spoelstra calls a timeout, where the team doesn't have a timeout. Jalen Rose, a familiar person with that kind of situation at the end of a game, one of the great all-time reaction shots we've ever seen. And the Pistons are 1-0 in Cup play in Group B. The Heat fall to 0-1. Friday, Raptors-Pistons, huge for the Cup. The Raptors kind of got to win that game if they want any shot of topping this group after losing their opener. I don't know if there's going to be a 4-0 team in this bunch. It's kind of a mess. But yeah, you can't really be losing to the Pistons when they're already up 1-0. Also didn't love that the Raptors kind of kicked away the point differential window of this game. Just keep Gradey Dick in there. Have him gun, man. Just get some threes up. You got to help that point differential, baby. Real point differential negligence by Darko Rajakovic. Can't stand it. We're going to leave it there, though. Big V, thanks so much for hanging out, buddy. You made a really miserable basketball game fun to talk about. So thank you, sir. Anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
So did you, man. So did you.
That's what I do, man. That's what I do.
What I'm going to plug, I'm going to tease. So, obviously the primary thing I've done since the Raptor season has begun is my takeaways for Raptors in 7. Yep. But, everyone is missing Zach Lowe. His work is absolutely incredible. And one of the things I always looked forward to is his 10 things. And I'm going to have a Raptors version of that on what we've seen through 12 games. So you can look forward to that in the next newsletter, because we got a bit of a break here before the next games.
We sure do. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Everyone go read Big V's 10 things. And hope you're doing well, Zach Lowe, with your Instagram posts and stuff like that. He seems like he's living his best life, becoming a Mets fan again. taking the year off, maybe, who knows, but yeah, go Zach. We will wrap it up there. Thank you so much for hanging out. Please support by following, subscribing, rating, reviewing, telling a friend. It's much appreciated when you go ahead and do that. Join the newsletter. It's free. It goes into your inbox every single day. Link in the description of the podcast. Thank you in advance for doing that. The Discord link in the description, also free to join. You're all the best. Thanks so much for hanging out. We'll talk again on Thursday with another episode of Locked On Raptors. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye. That was butter.
Yeah.
Ooh.